Let's talk about why men rush into getting sexual too soon. You meet a guy, the chemistry is there, the energy feels good, and before you know it, he's bringing up sex. Maybe he's being direct about it, or maybe he's being subtle, testing the water, seeing how far he can go. Either way, it happens way too soon, and you start wondering why. Why does this keep happening? Why do men move so fast when you're just trying to build something real? Men are often driven by physical attraction and instant gratification. From the moment a man lays eyes on a woman, his instincts kick in and his initial interest is usually based on what he sees. This is not to say that men do not value emotional connection, but their attraction is often visually stimulated first. This biological wiring means that when a man finds a woman physically appealing, his natural inclination is to want to get closer, and in many cases, that desire manifests itself sexually. Modern society plays a huge role in reinforcing this behavior. Everywhere you look on social media, in movies and music videos, there is an emphasis on instant gratification, especially when it comes to relationships. The idea of getting to know someone deeply before taking things to a physical level is often overlooked in favor of quick surface level connections. Many men have been conditioned to believe that if they feel an attraction to a woman, they should act on it immediately. They may not even pause to consider whether she is someone they genuinely want to build something meaningful with. The accessibility of casual relationships has also contributed to this mindset. With dating apps and social media, men are presented with an overwhelming number of options, which makes it easier to move quickly from one situation to another without much emotional investment. If a man has had past experiences where intimacy was given easily or early on, he may assume that is the norm. He might approach every new connection with the expectation that things will progress in the same way. It is important to recognize that while attraction is natural, a man who truly values a woman will take the time to connect with her on more than just a physical level. He will not allow his desire for instant gratification to override his ability to be patient and intentional in building a deeper connection. If he is only focused on the physical aspect, he may not see the importance of emotional and mental compatibility. Instead of working to develop a strong foundation, he might rush into intimacy only to lose interest once the chase is over. Understanding this dynamic allows women to be more mindful of the energy they entertain. A man who is genuinely interested in something real will show patience, respect, and a willingness to build emotional intimacy first. He won't just rely on physical attraction to guide the relationship, but instead, he will take the time to truly see and appreciate the woman beyond the surface. Many men have not been taught the value of emotional connection before physical intimacy. Society has conditioned them to believe that masculinity is tied to how quickly they can pursue and conquer rather than how well they can connect and build. From a young age, many boys are exposed to messages that encourage them to suppress their emotions and focus on physical attraction rather than deeper bonds. This creates a cycle where men prioritize sex as a means of validation instead of seeing it as a byproduct of a meaningful relationship. Past experiences also play a major role in how a man approaches intimacy. If he has been in situations where sex happened early and often without emotional investment, he may not see the need to slow down or take his time getting to know someone. He might assume that this pattern is the norm and approach each new woman with the same mindset. He may not even realize that a different, more meaningful approach exists or that a woman could want something deeper before taking that step. The fear of rejection or emotional vulnerability can also cause men to focus on the physical instead of the emotional. Opening up, expressing feelings, and forming a deep emotional bond requires a level of trust that some men are either unwilling or unable to build. They may use physical intimacy as a way to mask their deeper insecurities, avoiding conversations or situations that require them to be emotionally present. Instead of forming a genuine connection, they lean on sex as an easier, more comfortable form of intimacy. The influence of peers and social circles can further reinforce this behavior. If a man is surrounded by friends who encourage casual encounters or brag about their physical conquest, he may feel pressured to behave in the same way. He might worry that if he takes things slow or prioritizes emotional connection, he will be seen as weak or different. Instead of listening to his own desires for something real, he follows the expectations placed on him, even if they do not align with what he truly wants deep down. Many men rush into physical intimacy because they lack a true understanding of emotional connection. They have not been taught how to build intimacy beyond the physical, and as a result, they default to what feels familiar and easily accessible. Instead of learning to connect through deep conversations, shared values, and emotional support, they seek closeness in the only way they know how, through sex. This pattern is often reinforced by past experiences where physical attraction was prioritized over emotional depth, making it difficult for them to break the cycle. Men become sexual too soon is the belief that physical chemistry determines the strength of a relationship. They may see attraction as the foundation rather than one part of a much deeper bond. If a man has been conditioned to believe that sexual compatibility is the key to long-term success, he will prioritize getting to that stage as quickly as possible. This mindset leads him to focus on passion and excitement in the early stages rather than taking the time to develop a genuine emotional connection. Some men also equate sexual intimacy with validation. For them, being desired physically reassures them of their worth and masculinity. If they are insecure or unsure of themselves, they may seek sexual encounters as a way to boost their confidence. Instead of seeing intimacy as something that naturally unfolds in a healthy relationship, they use it as a quick fix for their deeper emotional needs. This can create a pattern where they pursue physical closeness for personal reassurance rather than genuine connection. The fast-paced culture of modern dating plays a role in encouraging this behavior as well. With dating apps, social media, and casual hookup culture, many men feel pressure to move quickly to keep a woman's attention. They may believe that if they do not escalate things early, they will lose their chance altogether. Rather than letting a relationship develop naturally, they push for physical intimacy too soon out of fear that taking things slow will make them appear uninterested or inexperienced. Some men move towards sex too soon because they have been conditioned to believe that patience does not serve them in dating. In a world where instant gratification is encouraged, they assume that delaying physical intimacy will cause them to lose their chance with a woman. They may have past experiences where taking things slow led to rejection or being placed in the friend zone, reinforcing the idea that they need to act fast to secure a romantic connection. This mindset prevents them from appreciating the process of emotional bonding and makes them more focused on achieving a goal rather than building something meaningful. Another factor is that many men struggle with emotional vulnerability. Opening up, expressing feelings, and forming deep emotional connections can be uncomfortable for those who have never been taught how to navigate their emotions in a healthy way. Instead of investing time in getting to know a woman on a deeper level, they rely on physical intimacy as a way to create closeness without the risk of emotional exposure. To them, sex is a shortcut to intimacy that feels safer than the uncertainty of revealing their true thoughts, fears, and desires. There is also the influence of peer pressure and societal expectations. Many men feel the need to prove their desirability and success with women by securing physical intimacy as quickly as possible. Whether it is through conversations with friends, media portrayals of relationships, or personal insecurities, they may feel like they need to demonstrate their ability to attract and be with a woman in a physical way. This pressure can make them prioritize sexual encounters over emotional investment, leading them to rush into situations that are not truly built on connection. Some men view sex as a measure of a woman's interest. They may believe that if a woman is attracted to them, she will be open to physical intimacy early on. If she resists or wants to take things slow, they might interpret it as a lack of interest rather than a desire to build something meaningful. This misunderstanding leads to impatience, frustration, and sometimes even withdrawal if they feel their advances are not being reciprocated as quickly as they expect. Some men push for sex too soon because they lack genuine emotional maturity and connection building skills. They have not been taught or have not learned the value of truly getting to know a woman beyond the surface level. Instead of investing in meaningful conversations and shared experiences, they rely on physical intimacy as their primary way of interacting in a romantic setting. This often stems from a lack of role models or personal growth in understanding relationships beyond attraction and chemistry. Many of these men operate from a mindset where relationships are transactional rather than deeply connected. They may see dating as a game where the goal is to get something rather than to build something. This perspective prevents them from seeing the value of patience, compatibility, and emotional depth. When they meet a woman they are interested in, they rush the physical aspect because they equate it with progress, not realizing that a strong foundation takes time. They associate sex with validation. For some men, being able to engage in physical intimacy makes them feel wanted, powerful, or successful. They may have personal insecurities that they mask by seeking quick sexual encounters, believing that a woman's willingness to be intimate with them confirms their worth. Instead of seeking emotional reassurance through deep connection and trust, they chase external validation through physical experiences, often without considering how the woman feels. Impatience and impulse control play a big role. Some men struggle with self-discipline and allow their desires to dictate their actions without thinking about the long-term impact. They focus on what they want in the moment rather than considering whether rushing intimacy aligns with the kind of relationship they truly desire. Instead of recognizing that building trust and emotional connection will naturally lead to a fulfilling relationship, they try to force a connection through physical means, often leading to misunderstandings, frustration, and even hurt feelings on both sides. Some men push for sex too soon because they are influenced by peer pressure and societal expectations. Many grow up in environments where masculinity is measured by sexual conquest rather than emotional intelligence or genuine connection. They are taught either directly or indirectly that their value as a man is tied to how many women they can attract and how quickly they can turn a romantic connection into a physical one. This mindset leads them to prioritize sex over emotional intimacy, often rushing into physical encounters before building a solid foundation of trust and understanding. Entertainment, social media, and even conversations with friends can reinforce this mentality. Many men feel pressure to prove themselves by sharing stories of their sexual encounters or by keeping up with their peers' experiences. The fear of being seen as inexperienced or not man enough pushes some men to approach dating with an agenda rather than allowing a relationship to unfold naturally. Instead of taking the time to understand a woman's boundaries and emotional needs, they focus on achieving a goal that has more to do with external validation than personal fulfillment. Another factor is the way modern dating culture has evolved. With the rise of casual relationships and hookup culture, some men assume that pushing for sex early is simply part of the process. They may believe that if a woman isn't immediately receptive to physical intimacy, she isn't interested, rather than recognizing that different people move at different paces. This misunderstanding can create unnecessary pressure in dating situations, leading men to push boundaries instead of respecting them. For some, early physical intimacy is a way to avoid emotional vulnerability. By focusing on sex, they don't have to invest in deeper conversations or expose their true selves. This allows them to keep relationships on a surface level, preventing any real emotional connection from forming. They may not even realize they are doing this as it becomes an automatic defense mechanism. Instead of embracing emotional growth and intimacy, they rely on physical attraction and chemistry, missing out on the deeper aspects of connection that create lasting relationships. Some men push for physical intimacy too soon because they have learned to equate attraction with immediate gratification. In a world where everything is available at the click of a button, patience is often overlooked. Many men have been conditioned to believe that if chemistry exists, there is no need to wait or build an emotional connection first. They assume that if a woman is interested, she will be willing to engage physically right away, leading them to misinterpret signals and push for intimacy before establishing genuine trust. A lack of emotional maturity also plays a role. Some men struggle with understanding their emotions and forming deep connections, so they focus on what they can control: physical attraction. They may not know how to express their interest in meaningful ways, so they default to seeking physical validation. Instead of investing time in meaningful conversations and shared experiences, they prioritize intimacy, shortcut to feeling close to someone. Unfortunately, this approach often backfires as it doesn't create the foundation needed for a lasting relationship. There is also the issue of how past experiences shape behavior. If a man has had previous relationships where intimacy happened quickly, he may assume that's the norm. He may not realize that each person has different comfort levels and timelines, leading him to apply a one-size-fits-all approach to dating. This mindset prevents him from being fully present in a new relationship and understanding what a woman truly needs to feel safe and valued. Some men are simply operating from a place of insecurity. They might believe that if physical intimacy doesn't happen quickly, they will lose the woman's interest. This fear of rejection leads them to rush the process rather than allowing the relationship to develop naturally. Instead of recognizing that true attraction is about more than just physical chemistry, they let their insecurities dictate their actions. This can cause unnecessary tension, making a woman feel pressure rather than pursued in a way that respects her emotions and comfort level. Society has conditioned many men to believe that their worth is tied to their ability to attract and be with women. This pressure creates an urgency where physical intimacy becomes a way for them to validate their desirability. When a man feels the need to prove himself, he may push for physical connection too soon, not because he lacks interest in a deeper bond, but because he's operating from a place of needing reassurance. This is especially common in men who struggle with self-esteem, as they may use intimacy as a way to confirm their attractiveness and masculinity. There is also the influence of peer validation. Many men are surrounded by social circles where early physical intimacy is seen as an accomplishment rather than a natural progression of a relationship. They may feel pressure to conform to these expectations, believing that taking things slow will be perceived as a weakness or a failure. This mindset can lead them to prioritize immediate gratification over emotional depth, ultimately preventing them from forming genuine connections. How men process attraction. Unlike women, who often connect emotionally before feeling physically drawn to someone, men can experience intense physical attraction first and let that drive their actions. This doesn't mean they aren't interested in something real, but rather that they may not recognize the need to build an emotional foundation before seeking intimacy. If they are not intentional about slowing down and creating space for a deeper connection, their attraction can lead them to rush the process. Some men have simply never been taught how to engage in emotionally fulfilling relationships. If a man has been conditioned to believe that love is primarily about physical expression, he will struggle to see the importance of emotional investment. Without guidance or self-awareness, he may believe that moving too fast is a sign of passion rather than a potential red flag. This lack of understanding can lead to miscommunication and frustration, leaving both people feeling disconnected instead of growing closer. Emotional unavailability plays a major role in why men push for physical intimacy too soon. When a man is not in a place where he can open up emotionally, he may rely on physical connection as a substitute for true vulnerability. It becomes easier to engage in a surface level relationship rather than invest in the deeper emotional work that a strong connection requires. He may not even realize he's doing this, but his actions will reflect his inability or unwillingness to create real intimacy beyond the physical. This can leave a woman feeling confused, thinking that the chemistry is strong when in reality, it's just a way for him to avoid deeper emotional investment. There is also the influence of past relationships and personal experiences. If a man has been in situations where physical intimacy was prioritized or rewarded without requiring an emotional connection, he may continue operating under that assumption. He may not see the value in taking his time because he has never experienced a situation where slowing down led to a more fulfilling relationship. This conditioning can be unintentional, but it affects the way he approaches dating and relationships, leading him to focus more on immediate gratification rather than long-term connection. Some men struggle with patience when it comes to relationships. If they are used to getting what they want quickly in other areas of life, they may bring that same mindset into dating. Whether it's success in their career, personal achievements, or other aspects of their life, they might be conditioned to believe that effort should yield immediate results. When they meet a woman they are drawn to, they may rush the process, not out of disrespect, but because they have never learned the value of pacing a relationship. There is also a fear of rejection that plays a role. Some men believe that if they do not escalate things quickly, they might lose a woman's interest. They may have been conditioned to think that they need to act fast before she changes her mind, leading them to push for physical connection without allowing a natural bond to form. This fear can stem from past experiences, insecurity, or a misunderstanding of what truly builds attraction. Societal pressures and peer influences shape the way many men approach relationships, often pushing them toward physical intimacy early on. From a young age, men receive messages that tie their worth to their ability to attract women and secure physical relationships. Whether through media, Conversations with friends or cultural expectations, there is an unspoken pressure to prove masculinity by moving quickly in romantic or sexual encounters. This conditioning can lead some men to rush into physical connections, not necessarily because they don't value deeper intimacy, but because they feel that's what they're supposed to do. Contributing factor is the idea of instant gratification. Many men have grown up in a world where almost everything is available on demand: food, entertainment, social interaction. This mindset can carry over into dating, making patience and emotional connection seem like unnecessary delays. If they feel chemistry with a woman, they may assume that the next logical step is physical rather than emotional bonding. They may not even realize that taking time to build a strong foundation can lead to a more fulfilling relationship. Instead, they operate from a place of seeking immediate pleasure, often without fully considering the long-term consequences. Some men use physical intimacy as a form of validation. If they have low self-esteem or unresolved personal insecurities, being able to attract a woman physically can serve as a temporary confidence boost. The act of being desired reassures them, even if the emotional depth of the relationship is lacking. They may not be intentionally manipulating the situation, but their actions are driven by an internal need for reassurance rather than genuine connection. Emotional detachment also plays a significant role. Some men struggle with vulnerability, whether due to past heartbreak, childhood experiences, or personal fears. Instead of taking the time to connect on a deeper level, they use physical intimacy as a way to engage without fully opening themselves up. This allows them to maintain a sense of control while avoiding the risk associated with true emotional exposure. They may believe that keeping things physical protects them from getting hurt, but in reality, it prevents them from experiencing real love and connection. And finally, some men do this because they're not looking for anything serious. It's that simple. When a man isn't truly interested in building a relationship, he has no reason to pace himself. He's not thinking about the future with you, he's thinking about the moment. And if his goal is just to have fun, he's going to act accordingly. This is why it's so important to pay attention to a man's actions and intentions early on. If he's consistently steering the conversation towards sex, if he's not making an effort to connect with you in a meaningful way, you already have your answer about where his priorities lie.